Today, I want to build a Cleric for 5th edition that doesn't only excel at aiding and helping their party members, like a good Cleric should. They can also hop from one ally to another with their flying speed, and on top of that, they can dish out a ton of damage with all of their fire damage spells that they can then, at their leisure, completely change to radiant damage spells. Let's build the Lighthouse. Hi there fellow roleplayers and game masters, my name is Mr. Drosk, and today I want to build another character with the rule set of Tales of the Valiant by Kobold Press, which is completely 5th edition backwards compatible. So if you want to use the rule set or you want to play the game as a whole, ask your game master if you're allowed to use it. And today I want to build a Cleric that's really cool, and it does a few things that you normally don't see a Cleric do in other situations or typical D&D games sometimes. Now, most of my builds that I do with these kinds of videos are up to level 6 or level 7-ish, because for me, that is where the peak of the fun of 5th edition is. Like, the earlier tier 2 is for me like the peak of characters can do a bunch of stuff that isn't yet super overpowered, and also the monsters, tactics and adaptations get really interesting and fun to play against as players. So that's why a level 7 build for me is always really cool, and at level 7 just a bunch of stuff always happens to come together. And it's the same thing with Mr. Lighthouse. Yes, I get helped by the Blind Jedi on my Discord channel. Thank you so much. Shout out to you for always helping me with these character builds. And he called this character build the Lighthouse, so I just called it Mr. Lighthouse, brother of Mr. Drosk. And yeah, we're going to build this character all the way up to level 7. I'm just going to talk about like the most important parts. I'm not going to go super deep in like all of the spells that I pick for this character or whatever, because you can do that for yourself. I'm just going to talk about the essential stuff of what makes Mr. Lighthouse Mr. Lighthouse. Now, Mr. Lighthouse is a Cleric, and it's going to be a light domain Cleric once we get to pick a Cleric subdomain kind of thing on level 3, because that's what Tales of the Valiant does. They do all of the subclass picking at the same level for every class. So what Mr. Lighthouse does is, he's a Cleric, so he can do like the healing, he can do like the buffing, the protecting, all of that stuff a Cleric does. But at the same time, they have a flying speed once a day. They have one for 1 minute. They can get a flying speed, and they can activate that as a bonus action, which is really damn strong, because then that means they can move their flying speed in the same turn. And also they get to cast a bunch of fire spells, which they then can convert to radiant damage if they want. So if they ever come across an enemy that is resistant to fire damage, which happens more than you might think at the early tier 2 of the game, you can be like, okay, I'll just make it radiant damage then, because if they're resistant to fire damage, I'll just make it radiant damage, because most creatures who are resistant to fire damage aren't against radiant. Creatures who are resistant to radiant aren't against fire. I mean, there are creatures that do that kind of stuff, but like, I'm talking like in general. So it is a really cool Cleric, and on top of all of that, they have a staff, right? But they will also have a staff and a shield at level 7, which means they have 18 armor class at level 7, but also be able with combat casting, they will be able to still cast spells while they have their staff in one hand and their shield in the other hand. And on top of that, their staff as a melee weapon, kind of last resort kind of melee weapon, also deals out more damage than it normally should deal out from the equipment part of the Tales of the Valiant book. So without further ado, let's get into the first level of Mr. Lighthouse. And it immediately starts with a few really important picks. The first really important pick is that you play a Cleric, because you want to build a Cleric, then you should take a Cleric. That's not funny. I was trying to be funny, but it's not funny. But then, as a race, or I should say lineage, because Tales of the Valiant uses the lineage and heritage background. A lineage is basically where your blood comes from, kinda, and your heritage is how you were raised. That kind of thing, right? Now, the Siderian is a really important part of what we're trying to do here. Now, if you do not know what a Siderian is, Siderians are mythical beings sired by creatures or powers from a different plane of existence, sometimes called starborn or plane-touched. Their origins are as varied as mysterious as the cosmic forces that shaped them. And that's completely true, because there's 3 bits of art for this this lineage alone, and basically, yeah, oh sorry, heritage, lineage alone, and yeah, they're completely different from each other. So whatever you want yourself to look like, pick and choose something. Now, there is two kinds of Siderians. Now, first of all, they have their age, they have their sizes, medium, speed is 30 feet, they have far sights, you have dark vision to a range of 60 feet, they have a bunch of other stuff, but also they can choose between celestial or fiendish, and then there isn't a third one, I guess? No. So, we're going to pick a celestial Siderian. Wow, a celestial Siderian. You possess notable physical characteristics to mark your connection to realms of good or order. Blessed guys. This is really important. Once per long rest, you can use a bonus action to assume an otherworldly guise for 1 minute. When you do so, you sprout spectral wings and you gain a flying speed equal to your walking speed for the duration of your transformation. So in our case, 30 feet. While transformed, one of each of your turns, when you deal damage with an attack or spell, you can choose to convert the damage type to radiant damage. So even while transformed, once on each of your turns, when you deal damage with an attack or spell, you can choose to convert the damage to a radiant damage. So whatever spell you're casting, whatever attack you're doing, once per turn, you can deal radiant damage instead of, say, fire damage for the fire spells that we're going to get to cast later. And as you might know, fire spells are often built for damage, for a lot of damage and a lot of mayhem kind of thing. Being able to negate a creature's fire resistance by having that damage be radiant damage can be really, really powerful, especially if you're playing like against undead and that kind of stuff, which becomes really interesting. So we are a Siderian lineage, and for heritage we picked Vexed. I'm not sure, was it the insight? I think it's the insight skill that we wanted, so we picked Vexed for that. It's just like a pick that we did. It's not really that super mega important. Other than that, we have 8 strength, 14 dexterity, 14 constitution, 13 intelligence, 17 wisdom, and 8 charisma. We cast with our wisdom, we want that to be the highest. We have 10 maximum hit points at level 1 because it's a d8 plus constitution, which is a 2. We have a staff as a weapon, and then we take a scale mail and a shield. The Cleric in Tales of the Valiant is, from the beginning, is, they can use, I think it's up to medium armor, or is it like heavy armor? I don't know. They can use scale mail and they can use a shield. Now, we're not going to wear or use this shield from the beginning because at level 1, we cannot cast spells if we have a staff and a shield in our hands. Our staff is probably our spellcasting focus thing we cast spells with. You can also rule it completely different, but we're not going to hold a weapon and a shield in our hands because then we cannot cast spells yet. That's really important. Yet. Other than that, we have 2 talents that we get to pick. One is Physical Fortitude, which is really important because we can re-roll Constitution saving throws with that. Now, re-rolling Constitution saving throws is always a good idea, especially if you play a spellcaster. A lot of spells require you to concentrate, and if you take damage when you concentrate, you need to roll a Constitution saving throw. Being able to re-roll that every now and then can really change the game for you. And another one is Comrade, and I really like the talent Comrade because, by the way, you can download this PDF filled in like this, link in the description below. Just pick it completely apart, deduct from it, add to it, do whatever you want with it. Go to the toilet and wipe your... So we're going to pick Comrade for that, because Comrade is just really cool. The main thing about Comrade, there's other things, but the main thing about Comrade is that you can use the 8 action as a bonus action. I said this in other videos, using the 8 action, which is helping an ally, they then get advantage on the next thing they do, as a bonus action is an incredibly powerful thing to have in the long run, especially on lower levels. No, also on higher levels. It's just really, really powerful because you get to do your full action, and then you can also say, oh, the guy next to me, I'm gonna aid him by knocking my my staff against like the knee of the creature in front of me, so they get advantage on their next attack roll. That kind of stuff is really, really cool to have. And that's basically the first level of Mr. Lighthouse. Now, there is spells that we can pick, there's cantrips that we can pick, and there's one really important cantrip that we're going to pick from the start. Now, as a cleric at level 1, we get to pick a manifestation, and we're going to pick Manifest Miracles. Manifest Miracles gives us access to I cannot pronounce this for the life of me, Shilak cantrip. It's basically a cantrip that does that makes our staff be a D8 damage type staff, so it does a D8 of damage, but it also uses our wisdom as its attack property kind of thing. So the bonus to attack with it becomes a 3, and the bonus to the bonus to the damage also becomes a 3. Since we're proficient with it, of course, we add our proficiency to the bonus. So the attack bonus is a +5, and the damage at level 1 as a cleric is immediately a D8 +3. But we also have another reason for taking this, but that all comes together beautifully at level 7. Then we're going to immediately jump to level 3 for the cleric, because at level 2 you don't get anything that you get to choose other than another first level spell. And as I said, I'm not going to go too deep into the spells. Here's some suggestions: Healing Word, Blast Sanctuary, Command, Protection from Good and Evil, and as a cantrip, make sure you pick Light. It's kind of important for the level 7 feature, but also Light is just an incredibly cool thing to have. Now, what we're going to do right now on level 3 is kind of really important. We're going to become a light domain subclass. Because the light domain subclass gives us access to a lot of fire spells. So here's spells that you get at level 3. Burning Hands, Guiding Bolt, is that a fire spell? I don't know. But Burning Hands is Moonbeam and Scorching Ray. After that, there's Wall of Fire, Fireballs, Flame Strike, all that kind of stuff. Which is a lot of like fire damage spells that are almost always high damage spells, right? But since we have the Siderian lineage, like I said in the beginning of the video, once per turn we can have every attack that we do, or one attack per turn, we can change the damage type of that to radiant damage if we want that. So we have these high damage, kind of high damage spells right here: Burning Hands, later Fireball and Wall of Fire, high damage, shit hit the fan kind of spells. But also there's creatures with fire resistance. We can then negate that with our high damage spells by turning that into radiant damage, which is just a really cool thing to have, I think personally, at level 3 already. Then we get to level 4, and at level 4 is that moment where every character gets to take an improvement. And an improvement just means that we can dish out 2 points across this little board here, or 1 point and take a talent. And to my opinion, it is always a good idea to spend 1 point here, because that makes this a +4. Not only makes that makes our spell save DC stronger, that makes our spell attacks stronger, but it also, since this is a build based on wisdom with that thing, it also makes this stronger. So now this becomes a 1d8 +4, and the bonus becomes a 6. So at level 4 we get much stronger. Now as a talent, we're going to pick something which is really simple, really straightforward, and it is Combat Casting. And Combat Casting is another one of those cantrips that, one of those talents that I really like, because it does a few things. It does more than what I'm saying in this video, but the main thing that we're using it for is we can hold our staff in one hand and hold our shield in the other hand, and still cast these amazing fire spells that also can be radiant damage spells. So now we can hold our shield. So now we are a cleric with all of the cleric spells and abilities like blasts and healing hands and all that kind of supportive kind of stuff. We can fly once per freaking turn once per day, we can fly for a minute. So we can fly from ally to ally. We can get around the battlefield or wherever much quicker. We have 18 armor class. We have, we deal D8 plus 4 damage with our staff, but we also can cast spells. So we can just legitimately get into the air and start blasting fire spells from the air at level freaking 4. And of course, after level 4 comes level 7. Yes, we're already jumping to level 7, so there's level 5, where we just get to pick a bunch of new spells. Level 6, we get to pick a bunch of new spells. Our hit points increase, so let's increase this from 31 to 38 for level 5. Then it's 45 for level 6. I might be mistaken. Is it 52 for level 7? I might be completely wrong, but that's when you're just like recording, you get a little bit nervous and you don't get to do math really well. But that doesn't matter at level 7, so we get to pick a lot of spells in between that, level 4 and level 7, right? If you want to go the full, I want to help my teammates kind of spell route, do that. If you want more crowd control, weird shit, do that. There's a lot of spells available for the Cleric, and a lot of cool spells available for the Cleric. But what we're going to do at level 7 is, at level 7, we get Radiant spellcasting, and this is where one of the fun things really gets together. With your divine cantrips that deal damage, deal an additional D8 radiant damage. So that's great. Divine cantrips. So if you have a bunch of divine cantrips in your cantrip pool, they all dish out an additional 1d8 radiant damage at level 7. That is absolutely brilliant. But in addition, while you have light or continual flame cast on the weapon that you are holding, the first time the weapon deals damage on a turn, it deals an additional radiant damage equal to your wisdom modifier. So in essence, when we have that thing on our staff where it becomes a wisdom weapon, right? It essentially now is a bonus of +6 still, but it essentially now does, if we have light cast on our staff, which we can just do in the morning, right? And we just have light cast on our weapon. It now deals D8 plus wisdom times 2. So D8 plus 8. So it deals a minimum of 9 points of damage and a maximum of 16 points of damage right there, right? So that is a really good spectrum. Between 9 and 16 is really good for a Cleric that isn't necessarily built to deal out damage. But if you're standing on the front line or whatever, you're doing your thing, you're out of spell slots, you know how those boss fights go, you're kind of out of spell slots, and you still want to do something, you try to hit the creature, you essentially dish out enough damage to make yourself still viable in that combat scenario, especially because you can stand in the front line for a while because you have pretty good armor class. You don't have like the highest tanky armor class, but you have pretty solid armor class. You don't have the highest hit points, but you kind of have a solid hit point pool. So you're kind of solid across the board, and you really shine when it comes to flying across the battlefield, casting fire spells from above, or flying to another creature, trying to heal them, fly to another creature, try to blast them, and that kind of stuff. Mr. Lighthouse is absolutely brilliant and insane. And that's Mr. Lighthouse all the way up to level 7. He can fly across the battlefield, cast fire damage spells that also can be used as radiant damage spells. He can use his staff to knock the living crap out of creatures if shit hits the fan. He has decent armor class. He has an incredible selection of spells, and he has a decent hit point pool. He is a Cleric to stand in the front line, but also get the fuck out of the front line and go heal an enemy, then heal an ally, and then fly to another ally in order to blast them or cure them from a disease or whatever. He is really a guy that you want on your battlefield, mobile, there to buff you, there to help you out on the front line. And yeah, I just think Mr. Lighthouse is an incredible character. Thank you again, the Blind Jedi on my Discord channel, for helping me out with this build yet again. I truly appreciate your help and support. And until next video, bye bye.